All right, now let's just talk about a variable scope, right? What is a scope? Let's just go from the slide. Limitation of variable. When you declare integer size equal to 4 inside your main method, the scope of this size is only within this bracket. You cannot access the size in different method. In different method, you will start seeing the error size not found error. So you are not allowed, the scope of the size variable is just limited to these two brackets. It cannot go beyond this particular method. The scope, when you declare integer x equal to 3, for integer I equal to this, you can use it right up to here, up to this point. But when you exit this particular method, the x is no longer existing. When you go out of this for loop, I is no longer existing for you. Let's try out this program right now. Just try this integer x equal to 3. For integer I equal to 1, I less than or equal to 10 and this. Okay. Just put the brackets. So the value of I is not gonna be accessible here outside of this particular program. Let's just try to do this value of I. You will see the error. I cannot be resolved to a variable because the scope of I is just limited to this loop. As soon as you come out of these two brackets, it cannot be useful. When you see integer x equal to 3, that means the scope of the variable x is just within this particular loop. It is not beyond this. But when you type this x, it is applicable even over here. The scope of this variable is between this bracket and between this bracket. So that's why it's gonna be applicable. Run this program and you will see the difference. There you go. So the scope of variable, depending upon where you are using, if you use it with the for loop, it is just applicable inside a for loop. If you use it in outside the for loop and inside any main methods, the scope of this variable is just still this method. Once you close the bracket, the scope of variable is no longer existing. So that's what we refer it as a scope of a variable. Let's continue the next slide. Scope limitation. Just look at this program. For integer I equal to 1, perform this. This is also okay. This is also okay. But integer I equal to 5, okay, outside the loop scope. So this I is different than this one and this one. It's completely different. So the scope of this variable is just outside of this particular two for loops, right? If you look at this program, integer I equal to 1, I less than or equal to 100, I plus plus, and you have integer I equal to 2. This is invalid because the scope is still valid for integer I, so it will overlap with the existing scope, and that's why this is not a valid way of doing things. But this, even this one, is outside the scope, so it's not valid. Let's try to run this program. Just see this one and you will see you can even compile this program too. Just run this program. There you go. You have written a print, so just change this to ln so you can see it in the new line. Run this one. There you go. Try out this program in your computer. I'll give you a minute to try this out, and let's just jump back to the next topic after that. Just complete the execution and then we'll jump to the next topic. Okay, let's just continue this one. Now, just think about it. If you put another integer I here, that's gonna be invalid. So let's just put that one, integer I, that's gonna be invalid. You will see the error message too. So just duplicate local variable of I. Okay, let's move to the next thing. We already talked about constants before, so these are all of the class constants. We already talked about it. These are some of the complex examples that I have given, and you guys can refer it on your own time. Using a constant, this is just the way I have used the constants. So just review this program. Yeah, let's jump to the next thing. This is just the observation. The constant cannot change the intercept in an expression. It is impossible to change the constant. You are not allowed to change the value of a constant. So now, in this lecture, we have covered very important points about the uh, for loop, nested for loop. We did talk about nested for loops. Then we talked about class constants. Then we talked about the scope of a variable and all of the. These are very, very important topics, right? Now let's just jump back to the next pseudocode. I'm going to show you the examples of pseudocode and why I feel it's a very important topic as well. So let me show you. There are a lot of websites where you can see the examples, but just go to this site, unf.edu slash this pseudocode, right? So just go over there. Now let me show you some of the examples for pseudocode. I want to determine what is the student grade. If the student grade is greater than 60, then print passed, else print S failed. Alright, so that means this is a pseudocode. Set total to 0. That means you will set a grade counter to 1. While grade counter is less than or equal to 10, input the next grade. Add the grade and print the class average. So now my problem statement is I want to calculate the class average. How do I calculate it? First calculate how many number of students you have. Then you will calculate all their scores, add all their scores and divide it by number of students. That will give you the class average. The next one is initialize the total to 0. This is another problem. Initialize the counter to 0. So as you notice, the pseudocode is a prerequisite before you start writing the Java program. This is more like the algorithm about the problem, how you will resolve your issue, right? You will write it into the English language, and as you can see it over here, first initialize all the variables to 0, input the first grade. While the user has entered the first grade, add it into the running total, add 1 to the grade counter, input the next grade, and then if the counter is not equal to 0, then print the average and print the no grades were assigned as this way. Now refer it to this example. I'll give you guys a minute and try to see what we are trying to do in this one. Okay. All right. So now, as you can see it, right? So you are just going to determine in this logic whether to raise the tuition fee or not. That's what you have done. Okay, so there are a lot of things that you can find the algorithm, right? And as you notice, the algorithm is a procedure for solving in terms of the actions to be executed. Now, once you write a pseudocode, you can use any programming language to convert this pseudocode into a actual program. You can use Java, you can use C Sharp, you can use .NET and many other language. Now, if you go over here, there are a lot of examples that you can write about, see about the pseudocode, right? There are a lot of them, and but it is a very important to understand all those things, right? About the pseudocode. Program calculation interest rate. That is the program that you are writing a pseudocode for. The and is also required, and then so program name, and end the program and perform some actions over here. Just go to the next slide. Whenever we write the program, we assume that the computer executes the program starting at the beginning and working to the end. That's also the same principle we will apply to the algorithms as well. So statement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. That's the way it will look like. So your program will also execute this statement first, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one in sequence until it reaches to the end. This is your program, starting of the program, end the program, and all the statements that flows between this program. Okay. Starting program, end statement, all the statement that needs to be executed between this in sequential order. That's the way it's gonna look. Click next. Selection. So we can ask user, if the sugar is required, then add this, else don't add the sugar. And if. So this is more like the conditional pseudocode that you have. In general, if this condition is true, then perform this, else perform this, and then end the program. If A is greater than B, then print A is bigger, else print B is bigger. And if. This is your program with the if and else loop. So you are deciding the flow of your program, whether to move in which direction, to go here, add sugar, or do nothing. Right? So that's all I have for the pseudocode as well as the Java language. We're gonna start with the next lecture. Thank you all for watching the video.